What you are looking at here is a fully functional AI-driven data analyst, which if you didn't know that was possible, you, my friend, are in for a surprise. So I'm going to show you what it is and exactly how it works. Essentially, the main part of what a human data analyst does is takes requests for particular cuts of data or particular views of data from decision makers who would like to see what's working and what's not working, or what the historical trend has been, that kind of thing. And so they will write an SQL query, pull the data, put it into a form like a table or a chart that makes it easy to visualize and understand, and then give that back to the original requester. Now, if you're dealing with a human data analyst, usually that person takes a little while, and it may be, maybe an hour or maybe a week, depending on the complexity of the request. So what I'm going to show you is an AI automated program that does exactly that, but only takes like maybe 1 minute maximum. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to give it a question. So like, show me sales by product category for the last 90 days. Okay, I'll just say that. And by the way, what you're about to see here is coming from a dummy data set. This is just a publicly available data set that's not real data, so it does look a little bit wonky, that's why. I've built this for multiple companies using their real data, but obviously I'm not going to share that on YouTube because that's confidential information. Anyway, so it asked me a follow-up question, which is exactly what I want, because I would rather it ask follow-up questions rather than make assumptions. So it says, our part table has no single category field. The closest attributes are P type, or P manufacturer, P brand, or P container. Which one should I group product category by? Okay, good. I'm glad it asked this because I don't remember exactly what's in this data set. Again, this is a dummy data set. It's not a real data set. So I'm going to tell it I would like P type. So I'm happy that it asked me that rather than just making an assumption because I asked for something it didn't actually have. But notice the intelligence here, that it took product category, which is a field that does not exist, and figured out exactly which are the most likely fields that I might be asking for. Okay, now we have an answer. So first thing it's going to give me is a description of what it's returning. So returns net revenue grouped by part type for orders placed in the last 90 days of the data set's timeline, sorted highest to lowest. Now there's a few bits of context in there that are helpful. So for example, it's showing me net revenue, not gross revenue. That is an assumption that it made because I asked for sales, right? And so net revenue in this case, I believe means sales minus returns. So it's good that I know that, right? So it's good that it calls that out. And then grouped by part type, and then orders placed in the last 90 days of the data set's timeline. That's a good thing to know too, because I asked for the last 90 days, but this data ends in like 1998 or something. So the last 90 days are not there. So it inferred that what I meant are the last 90 days from the latest date of the timeline. So good assumptions there that I agree with. If I didn't agree with them, then I could come back and say, oh no, I wanted gross revenue, for example. And then it said, in fact, I'm going to say that. Show me gross revenue instead of net revenue. And I can ask follow-up questions to this, by the way. So notice that I didn't ask for I didn't say the last 90 days. I didn't say by product category or product type rather. So it's remembering the prior context of the conversation. And so it gives me this data table with the product type and the net revenue, helpfully ordered from like most net revenue to lowest, which I didn't even ask for, but that's exactly the way that I would have if I had asked for it specifically. And then assumptions used. This is really helpful because you want to know, especially if you don't understand SQL yourself, then you really want to know what is it assuming? Because there's a lot of particular assumptions. So like product category equals P type. That's an assumption. Sales equals net revenue, which is extended price minus discount. Oh, okay. So I didn't realize that. This is price minus discount. And then excluded anything that was returned per the metric definition. So I asked for the follow-up asking for to include things that are returned, so gross revenue. We'll see how it interprets that, because that isn't entirely clear either. I might have to make an assumption there. But anyway, the data is historical, so last 90 days is anchored to the latest order date, exactly. And 90 day is filtered on order date, which is order placement date, rather than like order delivery date. Also good to know. And then insights and trends. This will tell me like what we can derive from this data. So the query returns net revenue excluding returns for 150 product types, clustering in a fairly narrow band from 48 million to 61 million. Revenue is equally distributed, which is because this is dummy data. That's why. In the real world, it probably wouldn't be. And then like very low skew across product types, etc. So it's like summarizing what we can figure out from this data. And then if you want to see the SQL, you can expand this. It's nicely formatted, and I'm looking at exactly how it wrote it. And so it's selecting from orders, join to line item on the order key, join to part on the part key, and then where order date is within the last 90 days of the max order date, and there is no return flag that indicates that it was returned. And then it's ordered by net revenue descending. So if you're the data analyst, then you always want to look at this SQL and make sure that it pulled correctly, especially when this is new. You really want to make sure that this is returning correct data. Otherwise, your client or your company is going to be rather unhappy with you, and blaming the AI just isn't going to cut it, right? You have to train the AI to give correct answers, and then you got to check the answers to make sure that they are correct. Part of the reason that this AI that I built returns correct answers was because I gave it context. I showed it exactly what all the fields mean and how the tables are organized and how the tables join with other tables and things like that. Now for this one, I didn't do a whole lot of that because again, it's a dummy data set. I don't even have a lot of context, but for my actual companies that I've built this for, I made sure to get a substantial amount of context so I understand. So when I say context, let me give you an actual example. So I built this for DoorDash, and DoorDash has a table of deliveries, and I don't think I'm giving any confidential information here. They have a table of deliveries where each row is one delivery. However, DoorDash, and if you're not familiar with DoorDash, they're a company that offers delivery service from restaurants and grocery stores and that kind of thing to home. But DoorDash also has a feature where you can order something and then go pick it up yourself. It's a carry-out order, essentially. And those carry-out orders also show up in the deliveries table. So in order to get the right, if you want to see actual deliveries, you have to filter for where that carry-out field equals zero, like equals null, right? Otherwise, you're going to get the carry-outs in addition to the deliveries, and your data is going to be off. Now, if you're just coming in as a data analyst to DoorDash, you don't know that unless somebody tells you. But the same is true with the AI. The AI sees that it's a table that's called deliveries, and so it's going to assume that every row is a delivery unless you tell it that, no, you have to exclude these rows, right? So that's what I mean when I say you have to give it context. You have to train it on the quirks of your particular data the same way that you would if you were training an actual human data analyst. And then I can export this to Google Sheets, which will take just a moment. Well, very small moment here. And here it gives you the exact data that it gave. Although there's a lot more categories, so this is giving you the full data, whereas this just gave me this gave me the full data too. It's just scrollable, so it looks nice. And then I asked it, show me gross revenue instead of net revenue, and it says returns gross sales, pre-discount sum of extended price, excluding returns, which is actually not what I wanted, so I will have to tell it exactly what I mean by gross revenue. But anyway, so it did the same thing here. And so I would say, when I said gross revenue, I meant net of discount, but excluding returns. And then it'll generate for me again, but I'm not going to make you wait for that. Anyway, so this is available now. If you have an interest in having something like this for you, feel free to contact me. Or if you are a data analyst, a data professional, or really any other kind of white-collar professional, and you would like to learn advanced AI, how to build things like this in a remarkably short amount of time that save enormous amounts of effort and make you a complete rock star in your company because you are saving them so much time, energy, and money, then I've got a free training, which I will link in the description below, where you can learn how to do exactly what I just showed you for free. I'm going to walk you through exactly everything that's involved in building this so you can build it for yourself. And if you appreciated this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.